Well, good morning and welcome back to another week of my allotment. And as you know, we were away last weekend, went down to Exmoor. We were driving across the moor on Sunday and the temperature was 9 degrees. And they reckon next weekend it's going to be about 30, 32. The weather is odd this year. But anyway, we had a lovely weekend, went for a lovely walk. I'll show you a few clips of the walk. And I'm back on the plot this weekend. It's Sunday morning, it's very early. I won't tell you the time because you'll think I'm a madman. But unusually I've only got a couple of hours up here, or a few hours. We've got family that live in Falmouth and they're up here for a party in South Wales, and they're going to stop off mid-morning and see us, and we haven't seen them for a few years. So I shall be cutting and running about 10 o'clock and that'll be it, I think. But so I've got a few precious hours up here, really looking forward to seeing them. So not a lot of time up here. Essentially really all I'm doing this morning is watering. Again, you know, we had a bit of drizzle yesterday before we went down to see my parents. And just before we left, you know, it rained a little bit, but not, you know, and wherever you are in the UK, it may be different, or even abroad. But we haven't had a proper day's rain. You know, I've said it before, I just don't know when. I seriously don't know when we last had good rain. And that has had consequences, and most of my onions have now bolted. Although the ones I grew from seed have not yet. We wait to see. But if they don't bolt, I think that's how I'm going to do all my onions in the future. I might do some autumn sown sets, because obviously they get the winter's worth of rain. But the spring, it's not worth it in the spring. You know, of course next year it could be very wet and they'd have no problem. But I'm losing a lot of onions. We are still using last year's onions. I say we, my wife, which is remarkable. We've been self-sufficient in onions for well over a year. It's fantastic, but we're not going to be this winter, I'm afraid. You know, that's the luck of the draw. So yeah, I've not got long up here. You're very welcome. It's a beautiful morning as the sun rises, and I've got a few things to tell you, little snippets of information. We'll see how it goes. I really don't know. But anyway, there's a couple of things I want to say first. So we'll start with that. Well, first the good news. This is one of my Gourd Birdhouse plants. I have been looking after them and hardening them off and being very careful with them. But today is the day they're going in the ground. And that arch at the bottom of the plot, they're going on that, hopefully to grow up and around it, like the Tromboncini squashes did last year. We grew them purely for aesthetics. We found them quite funny. Didn't eat a single one, although we must have had about 20 or 30. And again, these aren't being grown to eat. These are being grown to try and make small birdhouses to sell in the farm shop. We shall see how it goes. But I'm really quite excited about these. I'm not sure we've got warm enough temperatures, but we'll see. Certainly next weekend's temperatures won't do any harm. So they're going in. That's the good news. It's not bad news, but it's not great, and that is my leeks. I have a few leeks down the bottom. I put some more in this week, and then I tried to grow them in these individual cells, and it doesn't work. There's just not enough soil per plant for these to make any substantial growth. So I think what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to take these home and pot them on into individual pots. That's a lot, you know, it's a lot of faff, but you know, we like our leeks and I don't want to lose these. So yeah, I'm going to take these back home, pot them on with some more proprietary compost and see if I can't get them to get a bit bigger. back on Exmoor, walking down to the village of Withypool. It is freezing. Cheryl's not happy. She wished she wore trousers, not shorts. All the way onto Exmoor. Would you believe we bumped into the Queen?
Where's the sunshine gone?
And down to meet the River Barle. I'm sensing a certain amount of mutiny in the ranks. We've got to cross a ford, so I brought our flip-flops, knowing and Cheryl can't even get her toes in. I've just walked over to check there's a path on the other side. Come on, Cheryl, get your feet in. Be strong.
It's too cold.
Come on.
It's freezing.
Get your feet in. Come on. Right, I'm going to have to stop the video and I'm going to have to go down there and be a little bit more... Go on. Oh, she's going. She's going.
Freezing. Take a long time. Jesus, it's freezing.
You're very brave, dear.
Cold. My poor little feet.
You said they were blue, but they're actually bright pink. Did you enjoy our little adventure, dear?
No, that was cold. Oh, that was freezing. My poor feet, I can't feel them.
You're made of tough stuff, dear. A shin-deep river crossing in the middle of summer. How brave.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so bad if it was sunny, but...
It wouldn't have warmed the water up any.
Oh, no.
Welcome to Porlock.
A survey done at the spire.
Well, I thought I'd take you around a few highlights on the plot. And I thought, unusually, I'd start with this tree. It's called Jonah Gold. I bought two trees. 2 trees for a tenner from B&M down in Chepstow. Bridget put me onto it when they were on a deal. So I went down, it's a couple of years ago now, put them in, and this one, and I think it's a Granny Smith, the other one down the bottom. They're doing really well, and this one's very heavily laden. I'm going to have to snip a lot of these off because the branches simply aren't strong enough yet to withstand this amount of fruit. But I'm very pleased with them. Well, this is a very scruffy bed. I haven't weeded it since I don't know when, but the broad beans have been fantastic. Without a doubt, in my 6 years of allotmenting, this has been my best ever broad bean crop. We are thrilled with them. We've got loads in the freezers already. We're eating them cold with salads. We're eating them cooked with our Sunday dinner. They've been fantastic. As have been the strawberries. Punnets and punnets of them. That little cloche system I've got down the bottom, they've been fantastic, but they've given up the ghost now. And so now I'm picking from the main 2 strawberry beds, and they're fantastic. We are losing quite a lot to slugs, those tiny little slugs that burrow into a strawberry. But, maybe I'm losing 30 to 40% of them, but we've got so many that, I don't lose any sleep over it. And they're fantastic. And again, we freeze a lot for our winter smoothies, but it's just a pleasure to have a bowl full of strawberries fresh from the allotment. Fantastic. And the pea alderman, I said many weeks ago that these, when they were 3 or 4 inches high, these would be higher than the Harris fencing. I've got them growing up, and they're there already. And I'm pleased to say pollination is going well, and the peas are forming. Fantastic. These will need a really good drink today, I think. And the outdoor tomatoes are looking good. I have definitely grown them too close together. I should have, you know what it's like. You've got all these plants, you want to cram them in. I should have spaced them out, maybe doubled space, so took every other plant out. But they're in now, and for better or for worse, as they say. But yeah, I'm very pleased with their progress. They look very healthy as we speak. As do these second early kestrel potatoes. Yeah, fantastic. Won't be long before we're picking those. Picking them, digging them up. Well, these are climbing French beans. They're not looking great at the moment, but they are now finding the poles, and they're starting to wind their way. They're climbing French beans, and those are dwarf. And I've got another tray of those at home that will come up some point this week and go in the ground with these. So very good. And actually all my wigwams are now planted up, so they're either runner beans or French climbing beans. So those ones there are runner beans, St George. So yeah, all the wigwams are planted up. It's all looking very good. Well, down here the carrots look fantastic. I have had a little root around them, and they're only little finger thick at the moment, but they are developing, so I'm really pleased with that. This excess lot of half-dozen sarpomeras that I just stuck in here because I had nowhere else, they've come up a treat, and I shall earth them up this morning. And the edamame beans at the end there, they're doing okay. They're developing. They've got away from the slugs, so I hold out good hopes for them. These here are the squash mashed potato. I grew them last year. We loved them, and I sold a lot at the farm shop. Leeks over there. They're doing okay. They're thickening up. I've given them a water already. And then the onions. Now, actually, sounds like the cows are being taken for milking. They look pretty ragged, but these ones haven't bolted yet. So, I don't know, maybe they'll be okay. They're Centurion. But these, these ones, they are the most pathetic collection of red onions, electric they're called, and they simply haven't moved. you know, and they've, well, I reckon 60% of them have bolted already. You know, it's pretty useless. I mean, we're unlucky. We've had no rain at all. And these are built up on a mound, which in the winter means the ground doesn't get waterlogged, but in the spring when there's no rain it dries out to dust. Never mind. And then bringing you round, there's my Granny Smith, which is looking good, and I have reduced the load of fruit on that one. And then these are my pumpkins, and I'm really pleased to report they look great, really healthy. Couldn't look better. And these this watering system really does work a treat. And up around the two sheds, this little hanging basket. Again, I had some surplus plants and I stuck them in this hanging basket. Of course, the slugs can't get at these ones, so these are gorgeous. And then my little collection here, if I bring you back, these are these two water containers. That one I use to keep the pond topped up because it's got a leak, and this one I use to water the blueberries. And then underneath, just a collection of odds and sods really. I've got calendulas growing in the wellies, and then some pelargoniums. That's a sunflower that was growing in one of the beds, so I dug it out and put it in the pot. Got to do something with that soon. And then some stuff waiting to go in the ground, and the leeks that I just mentioned. Yeah, looks very attractive up here, I think. There's a fascinating book, piece in this book about penicillin and antibiotics. And of course, whenever you talk about penicillin, you think of Fleming. But there were a lot of other people involved. I'm going to read you a short extract about an unfortunate chap who scratched his face while pruning roses. And it sort of gives you an insight into what life will be like in the future when we've ruined antibiotics through overuse, which we are doing right now. Under Florey's command, Oxford gave over significant amounts of resources and research space to growing mould and patiently extracting from it tiny amounts of penicillin. By early 1941, they had just enough to trial the drug on a policeman named Albert Alexander, who was a tragically ideal demonstration of how vulnerable humans were to infection before antibiotics. While pruning roses in his garden, Alexander had scratched his face on a thorn. The scratch had grown infected and the infection had spread. Alexander had lost an eye and now was delirious and close to death. The effect of penicillin was miraculous. Within 2 days he was sitting up and looking almost back to normal. But supplies quickly ran short. In desperation, the scientists filtered and re-injected all they could from Alexander's urine. But after 4 days the supplies were exhausted. Poor Alexander relapsed and died. Died from a scratch on the face. With Britain preoccupied by the Second World War and the United States not yet in it, the quest to produce bulk penicillin moved to a US government research facility in Peoria, Illinois. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Scientists and other interested parties all over the Allied world were secretly asked to send in soil and mould samples. Hundreds responded, but nothing they sent proved promising. Then, 2 years after testing had begun, a lab assistant in Peoria named Mary Hunt brought in a cantaloupe from a local grocery store. It had a pretty golden mould growing on it, she recalled later. That mould proved to be 200 times more potent than anything previously tested. The name and the location of the store where Mary Hunt shopped are now forgotten, and the historic cantaloupe itself was not preserved. After the mould was scraped off, it was cut into pieces and eaten by the staff. But the mould lived on. Every bit of penicillin made since that day is descended from that single random cantaloupe. Within a year, American pharmaceutical companies were producing 100 billion units of penicillin a month. The British discoverers found to their chagrin that the production methods had been patented by the Americans and that they were now required to pay royalties to make use of their own discovery. That's more of that special relationship that is completely non-existent. But fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Well, could not be more pleased with that. Fantastic. Cheryl's going to be doing flick-flacks when I take that home. So, finally, they're in. So that's 3 Gourd Birdhouse plants there. And then a week ago, these 3 cucumbers were planted. They're well established, and I might even have to tie them in today. So we'll see how they go on the arch. Need some dry, hot weather. From the 1950s through to the 1990s, roughly 3 antibiotics were introduced into the US every year. Today, it's roughly 1 new antibiotic every other year. The rate of antibiotic withdrawals, because they don't work anymore or have become obsolete, is twice the rate of new introductions. The obvious consequence of this is that the arsenal of drugs we have to treat bacterial infections has been going down, and there is no sign of this stopping. What makes this much worse is that a great deal of our antibiotic use is simply crazy. Almost 3/4 of the 40 million antibiotic prescriptions written each year in the United States are for conditions that cannot be cured with antibiotics. According to Jeffrey Linder, Professor of Medicine at Harvard, antibiotics are prescribed for 70% of acute bronchitis cases, even though guidelines explicitly state that they are of no use. Even more appallingly, in the United States, and this is the same in all the Western world, 80% of antibiotics are fed to farm animals, mostly to fatten them. Fruit growers can also use antibiotics to combat bacterial infections in their crops. In consequence, most Americans consume second-hand antibiotics in their food, including even some foods labelled as organic, without knowing it. It goes on and on. Yeah, it's a bit like driving towards a brick wall with your foot on the floor of the accelerator, and somebody's sitting next to you saying, if you don't brake soon, we're going to die. If you don't brake soon, we're going to... If you don't brake, bang! And we just continue to do it. Doctors keep prescribing them, patients keep asking for them, and we feed it all to our animals. And one day we could all die of a scratch on the face. Absolutely crazy. But quite interesting. Well, that's another job ticked off. And I gave them a real good soak before I earthed them up, so that should hold that moisture in a bit. Lovely. Right, cup of tea. Well, I continue to read this book about the human body, and whether it fascinates you or not, I'm going to read a little bit more out, and it's about the face. You know, we sort of take our faces for granted, don't we? Some people have nicer faces than others. But, you know, I just find the whole thing of evolution and the human species fascinating. By primate standards, it's 2 pages. By primate standards, we have a very odd head. Our faces are flat, our foreheads high, and our noses protuberant. I had to practice that word. Almost certainly a number of factors are responsible for our distinctive facial arrangements. Our upright posture, biggish brain, our diet and lifestyle, the fact that we are built for sustained running. Did you know you're built for sustained running? No, neither did I. Which affects how we breathe, and the things we find adorable in a mate. Dimples, for instance, not something that gorillas look for when feeling frisky. Surprisingly, given how central faces are to our existence, quite a lot about them is still a mystery to us. Take eyebrows. All the many species of hominids that preceded us had prominent brow ridges, but we Homo sapiens gave them up in favour of our small, active eyebrows, he says, scratching his. One theory is that eyebrows are there to keep sweat out of the eyes. Well, if that's the case, they're doing a bloody awful job of it, let me tell you. I've lost my place. Keep the sweat out of the eyes. But what the eyebrows do really well is convey feelings. Think how many messages you can send with a single arched eyebrow, from "I find that hard to believe" to "watch your step" to "care to have sex." One of the reasons the Mona Lisa looks enigmatic is that she has no eyebrows. I didn't know that. Mind you, I've never really studied it. In one interesting experiment, subjects were shown 2 sets of digitally doctored photographs of well-known people. One with the eyebrows eliminated and the other with the eyes themselves taken away. Surprisingly but overwhelmingly, volunteers found it harder to identify the celebrities without eyebrows than without eyes. Eyelashes are similarly uncertain. There is some evidence to suggest that the eyelashes subtly change airflow around the eye, keeping dust away and preventing tiny particles from landing. But the main benefit is probably that they add interest and allure to faces. People with long eyelashes are generally rated more attractive than those without. I suppose that's why women put on false eyelashes. But when you put on false eyelashes, it just looks like you've got false eyelashes. Even more anomalous is the nose. It is the convention among mammals to have a snout, not a rounded projecting nose. According to Daniel Lieberman, Professor of Human Evolutionary Biology at Harvard, our external nose and intricate sinuses evolved to help us with breathing efficiency and keeping us from becoming overheated on long runs. It is an arrangement that has clearly suited us, for humans and their ancestors have had projecting noses for some 2 million years. Most mysterious of all is the chin. The chin is unique to humans, and no one knows why we have one. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Monkeys, they go from their mouth round. It doesn't seem to confer any structural benefit to the head, so it may be simply that we find a good chin dashing. Lieberman, in a rare moment of lightness, observed, "Testing this last hypothesis is especially difficult, but the reader is encouraged to think of appropriate experiments." It is certainly the case that we talk about chinless wonders and otherwise equate modest chins with deficiencies of character and intellect. Well, I never did. Yeah, chinless wonder. Yeah, interesting.
buy that just for David? But I didn't.
Chocolate, cream and strawberry.
Yeah.
It's not right, is it?
No.
It is. You've never had it.
No, I haven't, no.
Right.
I don't
Really
fancy
good.
it either. So I didn't buy it.
That's what I like to see. I'm not sure this has ever happened before.
How come it's up here deadheading when you got flowers?
This is a first. David is giving his partner Nikki a tour of the plot with his phone while she sits in Taiwan.
Looking at all our lovely strawberries.
The wonder of modern technology. While her indoors takes it easy.
I'm waiting for my coffee.
Oh yeah, I better go and do that.
No work for me at the minute, is there?
No, not really. Little Lexi wanted to see the scarecrow. Well, the day's at an end. And quite a good day. I worked till 10 o'clock, as I said I would. Went home, saw our family friends, Trudy and Ronnie, for a couple of hours. And then David, my eldest, and Cheryl joined me up here. We've had an afternoon up here together. It's been really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And then John and Terry have just turned up, so we've had a bit of a laugh. Cheryl's gone home to cook the dinner, and I'm going to take David home now. So, very good. Won't be here next week. We're away in the Cotswolds with the caravan. So, I shall see you in 2 weeks. So, until then, look after yourself, take care. Bye for now.